Alright, today we'll continue discussing the CCIE LAB requirements, specifically 1.2 and 1.12. These requirements are very straightforward and consist of two parts. The first part is NAT and the second part is Telnet. Let's look at the NAT requirement. It says to configure NAT address translation technology on device 23, which is the device shown in the topology diagram here. DC stands for data center, and on device 23 within AS65002, we need to deploy NAT. That means we're doing address translation, converting the addresses of our internal interfaces when traffic goes out, right? The internal interfaces traffic gets translated as it exits to the external public network interface. This IP address gets translated to a public IP. However, there's one interface, the 0/4 interface, which must not be translated. That's because it's connected to the SZ1CH access boundary device, so this address doesn't need to be translated. We only need to translate these two interfaces. Additionally, he said to translate this interface as well, the internal 0 interface. So we define these three interfaces as internal interfaces inside, right? Then we define the external interface 0/1 as outside, and then set up NAT. This requirement is very straightforward, so we'll just go ahead and do it. Let's start by completing the first part. First, for the first part. First, you enter these interfaces. You can do it this way. Use the range command to group them, then separate G2 to 3 with a comma, move back. I got stuck. Hold on a moment. So these 0 interfaces, right? Then define them as NAT, etc. inside. Luji Zhuang, which is my internal structure, right? And then this is interface G1. ITNAT outside. Okay, after configuring that, you can write the NAT command in the global view. This is inside source static, and then you specify TCP afterwards. So what does it require? Let's look at the requirements. It asks us to translate port 80 to port 2002. Right? This is very simple. You just translate it to port 2002 and the address is given to us 10.2.255.23, then port 80 is translated to 200.99.23.2, and then the port number is 2002, right? So port 80, my internal, this traffic, port 80 is translated to the external, this IP address, which is the public IP address, and its port is 2002. All right, that's all configured, and this requirement is fulfilled. So what's the next requirement? This Telnet is also very simple. It has a few requirements, which are that this device 23 only accepts connections when it enables this. Its own port is just its own port, which is the port where Telnet is enabled. For remote login, this port must be, look, it says only, it must be 3003. The tricky part is this 3003, that's the key point. You have to use 3003 to initiate this Telnet connection, right? We know the default port number for Telnet is 23, right? But here it wants us to use 3003, which means changing R3's port to 3003, right? This way, it's less likely to be attacked by others, right? And then the rest of the configuration, well, the requirements are actually very simple. It just asks for some usernames and passwords, right? The password is this CC!IE. And pay attention, this is a feature of the CCIE LAB exam. All the required passwords are this one. It's not CCCI, it's CCINF24, with the last part in lowercase and the first few letters in uppercase, right? There are 2 exclamation marks in it. Also, it says you can't use Stable-A, can't use day. Isn't that simple, right? If you can't use Stable-A, don't use the 8-day framework. So what we do is straightforward. Password authentication, right? Secret authentication, right? At this point, you also can't rely on that, right? As for the other requirements, there's really no need to look at them. It's just this simple. This is the pilot configuration, and then let's do the operation. First, you need to enable this feature. Enable, that's the one. Enable secret, then CCIE CC10E. Then exclamation mark, lowercase nf, 24. This is the password required by the exam. You have to write it like this. Then configure a local user, username local, and the user is required to be called CCIE user. This is what the question requires us to name it, right? You can read the question diagram for yourself. Here it says that we're required to name the username this and use this password, right? Allow local login and allow telnet. Okay, and then after that, we configure its privilege level, privilege 15, and then SCI. After that, privilege 15, hold on, let me check the username. Then privilege 15S. For this secret command, you need to type out the whole word, make sure you enter it completely, and the password after it is the same. This CC10, E10, and C. Just copy it and paste it here. Right? Once this is configured, after we've set up the username and password, we then write an access list. When writing this access control list, we need to write what's called an extended one. A basic access control list can't achieve what we need, so we have to write an extended one. And the name it as required. As required, the name is net as specified, and what exactly do we refuse to accept or acknowledge? That is, we're supposed to deny port 23, only allow this port, right? So we need to first deny port 23. Write a deny here. Deny TCP. Any, then EQ, which means equal to, right? Equal to telnet. Actually, here you can write 23 or telnet, both are fine. The point is to deny port 23 and then deny it. Oh, I missed an any here. It seems like there should be two. Right? And after denying port 23, we need to allow the others, right? Permit IP any, then write another any, right? This way, everything else is allowed because there's a default deny at the end. If we don't write this line, then everything else would be denied. All right then. After finishing this ACL, exit to the interface configuration mode. Then configure the number of virtual terminals for remote login from 0 to 15. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 15, making a total of 16. Since 0 is also counted, right? From 0 to 15, that's 16 in total. All right, then for access, who is allowed to access? Which protocols are allowed? Allow telnet access, right? And for authentication, I'll use local authentication. Local authentication, right? This configuration command is for local authentication. All right then, next I call this access list. So access class is an advanced feature, right? It's an access control list. So we call this feature, we call it, just now the name was telnet in uppercase, right? And the in direction means when you are coming in. So you bring in the ACL we just wrote and apply it to inbound connections, right? Pay attention. The most crucial command is this one. Finally, this command here. What this command means is that the parameter in front tells the router to use port 3003. We need to listen for the telnet connection on port 3003, right? Not 23. This parameter here corresponds to the port. This part in front, it means the port is 3000 plus N. 3000 plus N. So what is this N? My screen is stuck, so I'll write it here. 3000 plus N means whatever number you write after it, that's the port number, right? So if you write 3000, if you add a 1 after this parameter, then it's 3001. So the port number is 3001. If we write 3, right, then it's 3003. That fulfills the requirement of the question. Right? So if we write a 3 here, this way it allows this. 3003, that means port 3003. Telnet remote login, right? Actually, we can test it out. For example, now I trust this external network address, just trust this 200. Let's test these two requirements, 200.99.23.1. Ping works, right? Then let's take a look at this NAT. Let's verify this NAT translation. Look at its here. My internal network address 10.2.25.23 port 80 has been translated to this global address, right? You see my local inside local 10.2.255.23 port 80 has been translated to what's called the outside global, right? 200.99.23.2 port 2002. This is the NAT requirement. It's been achieved, right? Okay, then let's do this. Let's verify the telnet requirement below. Let's find another device to verify it. We'll use the one on the right, number 2. We'll use device 2024 to verify. For this device, I'll just connect to it directly using this MOBA software. Its address is 18.254.328.0832808. 18.254.245.1, 8.245, and the port number is 32,808. We'll use this device number 24 to verify the telnet requirement. First, let's exit to the root view, user view, and here we'll just telnet directly. Telnet to device 23 at 10.2.255.233.003 using port 3003. What's happening here? This port 303 has already tried. You see, try means it's attempting, right? It's already tried to access, but what's the reason it can't reach the target? Unreachable. You see, destination unreachable. Gateway or host down means that the link isn't even up right now because I'm just demonstrating this requirement directly, right? We haven't configured any of those previous links yet. We need to finish configuring all the previous requirements because today I'm only focusing on this particular requirement, so those earlier steps haven't been set up. The communication between them and all those related things haven't been configured yet. Right? Once you finish configuring everything, it'll work. It has already tried to access, so there won't be any issues, right? All right, so that's requirement 1.12. If anyone wants to learn Cisco technology or is interested in taking the Cisco Lab exam, please send me a private message. You can also leave a comment below the video. To get more materials,